Now let's bring in our first guest tonight, author of Laptop from Hell, Fox News contributor, Miranda Devine. Miranda, I was just thinking about all this, thinking about your brilliant book about Hunter Biden, and part of me thinks, we might be better off if they'd have put Hunter Biden in the White House. At least we'd have some fun along the way.
Well, actually, that's true. He's probably smarter than his father. But look, listening to you, it's really sad that this has happened. And I think that the reason that Biden voters, particularly and independents, are so disappointed and disillusioned with the president is because his big promise, as you just said, was to unify the country, a divided country already. Yep. But all he's done is exacerbate those divisions. He has done it not inadvertently, but spitefully, deliberately, pitting American against American, basically slandering 75 million Trump voters as white supremacists and domestic terrorists. He's sicked his DOJ onto mums and dads protesting at school board meetings against leftist brainwashing of their children. He's demonised the unvaccinated for some bizarre reason. He thinks that they are synonymous with Trump voters when, the demographics are quite different. He just seems to be a person, perhaps in his old age, who harbours resentments against people who disagree with him and who perhaps don't like him. And as the polls sink deeper and deeper, his anger and his resentment just becomes palpable. Every single public pronouncement he makes now, he looks angry, he's shouting, he's punitive, and it's quite terrifying.
It's such a good point. That's right. That sort of emotional aspect to it is really adds to the kind of anxiety people feel. And the thing that it just all makes me think is in the end, leadership, it's about the person, and like I said at the beginning of my remarks, he's talentless. He's just a machine politician. Yeah. If you think about other presidents, whether we agree or disagree with their policies, right? You look at someone like Bill Clinton, clearly an incredibly skillful political operator. He knew how to kind of appeal to the center and so on. Lots of other faults, but there was something about him. You could see why he was there. Same with President Obama. He had made brilliant speeches. You can't fault him as a family man. There are things about other people who've got to this position where you can see, I get it. With Biden, there's just nothing.
Absolutely right. Every other president really has been exceptional in some way. And Joe Biden is not and never has been. And we can slate that to the media. It's their fault for not doing the due diligence on one of the two candidates for office. They were so determined to get rid of Donald Trump, and they thought that all the other Democratic candidates, the younger ones, the more talented ones, were just too far left. They weren't palatable for what is really an electorate that's moderate. Most Americans are centrists. And so they put forward Joe Biden, but it wasn't the real Joe Biden. It was the myth of Joe Biden as this sort of benign uncle, this moderate politician who's tough on crime and a pretty centrist guy who wouldn't rock the boat, who would be empathetic to people coming out of a pandemic, who had suffered great tragedy himself. None of these things have panned out. In fact, he's a nasty person. He's cognitively failing, and he's also incompetent. And that's obvious through his entire career. And underneath it all is this corruption. It's what I wrote about in Laptop from Hell. It means that his influence peddling all his career and internationally when he was vice president is now impacting on his presidency because he's compromised in the eyes of China and Russia, America's greatest adversaries.
Exactly, and actually, you nailed it right there because the story you pursued relentlessly and brilliantly laid out in your book is the best example of how he was not vetted properly. And that's why the whole thing was so outrageous. And look what we're stuck with. Miranda, thank you so much. Great to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.